Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Colton and I used to be a flight attendant. My last shift as a flight attendant was at the beginning of February and I did not quit because of the pandemic. It just conveniently worked out that way. So I guess I got out at the right time. This video is going to be about what bothers flight attendants. As I was working as a flight attendant, I did create a list, and this list is based off of the experiences that my colleagues have spoken to me about, as well as my own personal experiences. This video is going to be specifically catered towards things that passengers do that bother flight attendants. There are a ton of other things that bother flight attendants, just like with any other job. No job is going to be perfect. You're not going to be 100% happy in any job. There will be negative people. There will be things that you don't like. So these are just a few of them. The first item that I have on the list is closing the overhead bins when they are not full. So picture this. It is the dead of winter and you come on the plane, you have your jacket, your scarf, you've got your backpack on, your carry-on item, and you put your bag under the seat and you place your jacket and scarf in the overhead bin. And let's say there's nothing else in the overhead bin, but you close it because you're done with it. Well, as a flight attendant, typically when we close the overhead bins, it means that they are full. So if you have a service director up at the front, they're going to be looking into the back to see how many bins are closed. So that way we can manage our cabin space. And for flight attendants that are working up at the front, when they see that all the bins are closed, that can indicate that we are full on space and that they need to start taking bags at the front door. So that way there aren't traffic jams in the aisles, and this way we can put those bags that we know won't fit in the cabin now because all the bins are closed into the cargo. So as a flight attendant, we might think that this bin is full, and let's say there's a passenger that needs to put their roller bag up in the overhead bin. We're going to look for an open bin rather than a closed one. The next item on the list is taking your socks off and going barefoot, walking around the cabin, going into the lavatory, placing your feet on armrests and tray tables and the backs of seats and screens, and it's just gross all around, and any flight attendant you speak with will 100% agree with me on this. If you think about it, an aircraft is a pretty dirty place. A lot of people have been walking through, have been sitting on those seats. In the lavatories, that's the thing I really don't understand, is as a passenger deciding to go into a lavatory with bare feet. Yes, we do lavatory checks and we do clean up the lavatories, but it's definitely not going to be to the extent that we would have at a base where they do a full grooming of the aircraft. So in between those lavatory checks, there could be urine on the ground, and then you've just walked in all barefoot, and now you have urine all over your feet, and then you're touching everything, like the armrests and the tray tables, and I'm just no. Please just keep your shoes on, keep your socks on, and everything will be fine. Third thing that we have on the list is people asking for water at the most inconvenient times. I would say this only happens maybe half of the time. Typically, passengers will ask for a beverage at a good time, but definitely half of the time people will ask at a very inconvenient time. And I find typically when people are asking for water at inconvenient times, it's because they want to take their pills. And there's definitely a time and place, but just before taking off is not one of those times. The fourth item on the list, I guess it could be said for most jobs where it's not necessarily your fault, but people are taking their anger out on you for things that are out of your control. So for example, passengers getting angry at flight attendants or flight crew for missed connections or lost baggage. Of course, we are humans too, and we don't want you to lose your bags. We don't want you to miss your connections, and we will definitely do our best to point you in the right direction with the resources that we do have, and perhaps someone else down the line, whether it be a gate agent or like down at the baggage carousel, the agent working there, they can definitely help passengers more than we can in the air, because in the air we're definitely limited for information. And when passengers yell at us or get upset with us because we can't provide any more information, I'm sorry, we're 35,000 feet in the air. I'm trying my best. The fifth item on the list is asking for coffee or tea, but failing to mention what you want inside the coffee or tea. And that just makes us have to ask follow-up questions, and it takes a lot of time, and especially if you're trying to serve a cabin of 450 people, this can be very time consuming, so it's quite annoying for flight attendants to have to ask 1,000 questions. For example, if a passenger asks for a tea, then a follow-up question will be, well, what would you like inside your tea? And if the passenger replies milk, then the flight attendant's gonna have to ask how much milk. You see, there's like a lot of back and forth with just one passenger. So it'd definitely be easier if passengers treated this like they do in drive-thrus or at fast food restaurants asking for their beverages. Next item on the list, we have passengers getting angry when we don't have the food that they want on the plane. And I totally understand the frustration because you've paid a lot of money to get to your destination. You had something in mind that you really wanted off the menu, but we just ran out of it because apparently on that flight, a lot of people were asking for that food item and we don't have it anymore. But the passenger getting angry at us isn't going to change the situation that we are on a plane and we do not have unlimited amount of food. We can only bring so much. So depending on the route, the time of day, it changes how much we have of certain items. So like during a night flight, for example, we are not going to have as much food as a day flight because through our sales reports, we haven't been selling very much food on night flights because people are sleeping. The same thing applies to different routes. If on the Toronto-Vancouver route, beef sandwiches are really popular, then they're going to stock up on more beef sandwiches and less on, let's say, the sriracha wraps. And so if we only have 2 sriracha wraps and 2 people already want it, and now we have none, if a third person wants a sriracha wrap, well, we don't have any more. Back to the point of where we are human, we of course want you to be happy. We wish that we had all the food in the world on the plane, but unfortunately it's just not how it works on aircrafts. We have a very limited amount of space. The 7th thing on the list is when we're walking through the aisles and someone gets our attention by jabbing us in the side or in the butt or just touching us when they could just say, "Excuse me." And we definitely prefer if if they can just say, "Excuse me." We are very situationally aware. We hear things. We definitely know. We can usually tell when you need something before you even feel the need to ask. We can see those visual cues, the body language, the movements. These are all things that we process and we already know typically ahead of time. So when we're walking through the aisle and someone asks for something, but they really like to jab you in the side for some reason, I don't know why, but that really bothers flight attendants because we're in a constricted area with a ton of people. We deal with a lot of people within a day, and when people are constantly poking you, you just feel like you have less and less space, less and less of a bubble that perhaps you want to create. You want to create yourself a bubble, but it's very difficult in these constricted areas. What we recommend is definitely if we're passing by and you need something, just say "Excuse me," or you can press the flight attendant call button, because as soon as you press that, boom, we are aware, we know exactly where it came from. So definitely just do that in place of jabbing. The last and final item on the list is passengers standing and spending time in the galley unwelcomed. So picture this, we are flying Toronto to Vancouver, which I think it's about 4.5 hour flight, if I remember correctly. Flight attendants are up and down, doing service, getting drinks, making sure everyone is comfortable and happy, and in between services we go to the back galley and we eat if we have a chance, or we talk to each other, we just hang out a little bit. Sometimes passengers think that the galley area is kind of like a free-for-all area where they can come and they can do yoga, they can stand and chat with their other friends that are on the flight, and meanwhile all of us are kind of just cramped in there with no space to do anything really. And we understand that some flights are very long and it's good to stand up and stretch your legs, move around a little bit, but as a flight attendant, sometimes we're doing 2 flights a day, 3, 4, 5, depending on what airlines you're working with, if you're doing short haul, long haul. And the galley really is our kind of like sanctuary where we get to have some time to ourselves, time to eat, where we're not in those really constricted aisles with people poking us and asking us a bunch of questions. It's just our time to decompress and when people kind of invade that space unwelcomed, it can bother a lot of flight attendants. So just be mindful and kind of read the energy if you go back into the galley area. Maybe don't spend like 30 minutes stretching. Just spend like 5 minutes stretching, walk up and down the aisle a couple times, and then go back to your seat. That's typically what will work best. I hope that this video provided some insight for passengers that might not necessarily be aware of what goes on in aviation or what it's like to be a flight attendant and working in confined areas for long periods of time, and kind of just how to get along better with flight attendants in general. So that is it for the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!